Making this dress is so easy, and I'll be taking us through on how to make it step by step. Welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time, you're welcome, and to all my subscribers, you're welcome. Please subscribe and don't forget to like the video. So these are the fabrics I'll be using for this. I have this plain crepe and a flowering crepe, about 2 years. So I'll be using this too. I have my zipper, I have my elastic band, my ruler. So I have my fabric already folded in two, and I have some horizontal line drew on them. I'll be explaining all these lines step by step. So the first line is my starting point, and I came down 8 inches downward, which is my chest line, then 10 inches, which is my bust point, then 16 inches, which is my waist. Then I came down again to about 26 inches, which stands for my hip line. Just know from your waist to your hip can be 9 inches downward or 10 inches. Then I have from my hip down to the main length, which is 40, and I have 2 inches allowance added to it, which makes the whole length to be 42. So coming back to the starting point, I'm going to be taking the shoulder measurements. Before that, I will just go ahead and label what I have already. So the CL means the chest line. Remember, I said I came down from the starting point 8 inches, which is my chest line, then followed by the BP, which is the bust point, which is 10 inches from my downward from the starting point. Then the waist, which is 16 inches downward, I have it labeled W. Then the hip, which is the one down, about 26 inches from the starting point downward. So that is the hip. Now I will take the measurement of my shoulder, divide by 2. So my shoulder is 15. I divided by 2. I have 7.5. I added 0.5 allowance for sewing. Then from there, I slanted it down. You can see slanted it down 1 inch. So from there, I connect it vertically to the CL, the chest line, and on the angle there, I came up about 1 inch just to get the perfect armhole curve without using a curve ruler. After that, I just divide the bust measurement by 4. So the bust measurement I have there, I divided by 4. I marked it on the chest line. Then I added about 1.5 allowance. When you're working with a crepe material that is very stretchy, sometimes you don't need to just add excess allowance. About 0.5 sometimes is cool. Then on the waist side too, I divided my waist circumference by 4, and I added 1.5 allowance. At this point, I'm going to connect these 2 points together so I can shift my fabric, and since the table I'm using is a bit smaller, so we'll move to the marking of the hip line. So the hip circumference, again, divide it by 4, and I'm going to mark it out. So anything you measure on your hip circumference, just divide it by 4, and I'll mark it out. Add the same 1.5 allowance I've been adding from the beginning. So now to get the down parts of the gown, I'll just take my tape rule and measure what I have on the hip line, both the allowance, everything. I'll measure it, and anything I get there, I'm going to minus 1.5 from it. Then I'll mark it for the down part of the gown, and that is exactly what I did there. That's what I marked for the down part. I just minus 1.5 from everything I marked here on the hip line. Then I'm connecting everything together, and while connecting, ensure it's going to give you a perfect figure. So after I'm done doing that, I'll just take my scissors and cut out exactly what I marked out on the fabric. And you can see how perfect it's looking already. Opening it up, you can see what we have now. This is just for the front part. So I'll place the same fabric on another of the same fabric, but this same fabric downward now is folded again in 2. So I will just go ahead at the center point of the fabric. I will just mark out about 1 inch straight, and I will connect it with my ruler. And on the other side, I'll take my scissors and just cut out following the shape I have placed on the fabric. Then I will shift my fabric because the table is smaller than the length of the fabric. So I will continue the cutting, then also marking out for a 1 inch, connecting it together and cutting it out. And that's for my zipper allowance. But we are not yet done for the zipper allowance. I'll place my tape rule and just mark out 16 downward. And on that 16, which will be on my waist part, I'll come in 0.5. I'll minus about 0.5. I'll connect it upward and downward, exactly the way you're seeing me doing it now. Then I will take my scissors and cut out perfectly. Remember, just to avoid budging of the zipper area, remember the back, center back is not that straight, so that's why we have to do this to get a perfect zipper without budging. Then we'll proceed to the neck part of this, and for the neck, the wideness I'll be using 4 inches, and for the depth I'll be using 3.5, and this is just for the front part of the fabric. I don't want the back to be too down like the front, so I'll just mark about 1.5 and I'll connect it exactly the way you're seeing. Then I will first cut out the back side. After cutting out the back side, I will remove it, separate it from the front, then place the front back just for me to cut out the neck depth for the front part. This is totally based on preference. If you want the depth to be as equal as the front part for the back, just go ahead and cut it out the same time, the same way. So after having done that, so I'll open up the front part of the dress of my fabric and I will locate the right side and the left side. You can see on my fabric already labeled the left and the right side. That is when you put the clothes on, you just get the right side and the left side. So on the left side, I'm just coming down about 2 inches, which is going to be on the bust parts I already marked. Then on the right side, I came down 3.5 inches. So I have 2 points line. So I'm going to connect these 2 points together. You can see now, I'll just connect it together straight, slantly straight together. You can see exactly what we are doing now. So since I'm cutting it out straight on the fabric, I will not want to cut it on that same part. So I will come above, up 0.5 above, so that the 0.5 I'm coming above with is for sewing allowance. So by the time I sew it finish, I'll still have the slants the same place I want it. And for the upper part of the slant, I'll be using that flowering fabric you just saw. Another thing I did for this front part of this fabric is to get the perfect armhole by coming in 0.5 on each of the armhole to avoid budging on the sleeve parts, also on that armhole area. So I just aligned the fabric back together just for me to get the perfect dart. So for the dart, I came down 12 inches. Then from that 12 inches, I'll come down 9 inches. And between that 12 to that 9 inches, I came down with the length of my dart will be between the 2 points, and I'll just mark out 4 inches inwardly on the fabric, and I'll locate the center exactly the way I'm doing, then connect it straight to the center. I'm not going to cut this out. This is just showing where I'm going to be holding up for the dart. Without wasting much of our time, let's proceed to the sleeve part. And as you can see already on the style we are making, we are replicating, we have the sleeve to be a very massive puff. So I have this paper, I'm going to be cutting it out. So I'll first mark out the length for the sleeve. While marking out a length for a puff sleeve, it is advisable to add excess length allowance like 6 inches, sometimes 7 inches, so that you can get the puff falling. Then for the upper part of the sleeve, I'll come down about 4 inches and I'll slant it down to the other side exactly the way you are seeing. So you see how I'm coming down on the upper points of the sleeve and to slant it down. Basically, for this sleeve is going to have a plinting on the shoulder point. So you can see what I have now. So I'll just mark it, and what I'm marking there is about 13 inches. So I'll first mark it out 13 inches. Then on the down part, I'll first mark the main length for the round sleeve, which is 8 inches divided by 2. I have 4. I just first marked it out, and this is just for a basic sleeve that's going to have a pleating on the shoulder. But since I want the down is massive, so it's of 2 ways. You can decide to cut this one out and divide the paper draft into 3 and open it up to cut it on the fabric, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just mark out exactly the wideness for the round sleeve on the paper, and I'll place it on my fabric and cut it out. So I just mark out the exact wideness I want, and I use about 14 inches. So by the time I open up the dress, I'm going to be having like 28 inches. So I just cut it out from there. This is the simplest way to get a massive long sleeve. You can make the down part to be wider than this. It's based on exactly what you want. For the down part, we are going to be inserting elastic band. So this is me just placing it on the main fabric and cutting it out. You can see I had some allowance at the top for sewing. So you can see how wide it is by using about 14 inches. And the down part, I said already, we are going to be putting the elastic band. So for the upper part, you can see I just placed my fabric again on the flowering part, and I will cut it out in 2 pieces. So you can see I have it cut out in 2 pieces. And guys, if this video has been so helpful, please don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel for more video. Step by step on how to sew this will be released later in the day. Thank you for watching. Bye.